Hey, everybody, it's a beautiful Friday. And yes, it's Fat Waffle Friday in my household. On this Friday morning, people, this is Locked On Sports Minnesota, and we love to bring you all the topics. This is the Roundtable. This is a podcast network. I'm the host, Ron Johnson. I got Sam Ekstrom joining me, the producer. We got Reggie Wilson from Care 11, sports director, the guy that does it all. And if you've seen Bad Juju, there she is. Julia Daniels joining us from Care 11 as well. There's a lot of stuff that goes on in sports. I mean, we could talk about clothing. We could talk about players showing up in shorts with patent leather shoes. We could talk about teams that have now improved. The Lakers, Reggie, doing better with JJ Redick, got that team going in the right direction. But you know what? We love to focus on what you guys love, and we got Vikings. We're going to have a little Wolves. We're going to talk about coaching carousels. And I don't know, Kardashians, who knows what's going to come up today. But before we get locked on these topics, I got to let the guys kick it off. So, Sam, what you got for us?
Yeah, I'm going to rant about the Wolves today. They're 6-6. They just got swept by the Blazers. What's going on? I'm going to get mad today.
We got Vikings in Nashville this weekend. Nash Vegas, as Julia said. And we're talking some FanDuel locks. Maybe listen to me. If last week didn't work, don't listen to me again.
And we've got to talk about Brian Flores' comment about trying to get back into one of those 32 coveted spots as a head coach in the NFL.
And I'm going to pull a card, and I'll let you know what we're going to talk about when we come back after a quick pause.
This is the Locked On Sports Minnesota Roundtable. Your favorite podcast personalities, along with Care 11 sports reporters, weighing in on the hottest topics. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Just download the Game Time app today, because what time is it?
Game time.
And as I said, I'm going to pull a card, any card you like. You guys know that game, right? So, oh, look at that. Bold predictions. That's the card I pulled. And so I'm going to make some bold predictions on today's show. So here's some nerdy stats. If you look at week 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, because they had a bye week in 5, 7, 8, 9, and 10, the Tennessee Titans, but you know what? Who cares? I'm putting extra letters in there. The Tennessee Titans have only allowed one player to have over 100 yards in a game. Does anybody know who that team was and who that player was? Anybody?
It's a running back?
Anybody? Nope, it's not
running
a running
back.
Nope, it's not a running back.
Oh, so just yardage from
yardage period. There's only one player receiving yards. One player, not one position, one player the entire season through week 1 through 10. Who, Julia?
You said receiving yards?
Receiving yards. There's only one player that's gotten over 100 yards against the Titans this year.
All right. Give me a minute to get the schedule up at least so I can get the teams.
I'll give you the teams. Bears, Jets. Christian Watson was with the Packers. You got the Dolphins. You got the Colts. You got the Bills. You got the Detroit Lions. You have Hunter Henry. Who does he play for? The Patriots. And you got Ladd McConkey with who does he play for?
Chargers.
There we go.
I would guess a Lion because they gave up 52 to the Lions. I'm going to say like Amon-Ra.
Okay, Julia.
Oh, that's a good one. Is it a Lions player? I have to go with Amon-Ra too, because
Reggie Wilson.
I'm going to go Jameson Williams.
Okay. So here I'll tell you the leading receivers. Week 1, DJ Moore, 36 yards. That was the number 1 receiver for the Bears. Week 2, Garrett Wilson, 57. Week 3, Christian Watson, 67. Week 4, Jalen Waddle, 36. That was the leading receiver for the Dolphins. Josh Downs, week 6, 66 yards. Sam Laporta for the Detroit Lions was the leading receiver for the Lions, 48 yards. That was the number 1 guy that game, was 48 yards, was the most yards given up against the Lions. Hunter Henry, 56 yards. Ladd McConkey, 52 yards. The Buffalo Bills in week 7 had the player. Do you know who that player is?
Mac Hollins.
No.
I looked it up. I
No.
cheated.
You cheated.
I cheated.
Julia.
I don't know.
Keon, the man out of Michigan State that went to
Wow.
Florida State, Coleman.
That's
What a
fun.
nickname. What a nickname that he has.
How many did he have?
125. That is the only receiver that's gone over
Wow.
100 yards. Only player that's gone over 100 yards. And the next closest number was 67. That is nuts. So the Titans
So-
defense is elite. And here's why. They are number one.
Sneed?
Could
He's
be, but
hurt.
he's hurt. He's
Oh.
hurt. So that's
They got a lot of
exactly.
injuries. They're banged up.
He's hurt. And their safety also got hurt in the Colts game.
Andre Diggs.
Yep. And so here's where I go with this. My bold prediction is that there will be another 100-yard receiver because they have only given up to one in this game. I don't know who it's going to be, but here's the reason for it. They like to show 7 and rush 4 most of the time. 90% of the or 91% of the time they show 7, and this is mainly on third down and passing downs. They show 7 and they rush 4. It is very predictable. But is not, people have not figured it out. I think Kevin O'Connell is going to figure it out. Why? Because he has a guy he works with by the name of Brian Flores that likes to show and rush a different number. So I think if anybody can prepare for this team and this defense, it's the Minnesota Vikings. I say the Minnesota Vikings will have 100-yard receivers this game. Sam, what do you think?
Jalen Naylor, let's go.
Could be TJ Hawkins' coming out party and most of the third down completions have come in the slot.
Yeah.
When I have the 3 plays I'm doing this week, 4, they're all out of the slot. Like whether it's a guy motioning to the slot, whether it's a guy shifting to the slot, or it's just a tight end lining up all, on the tight end or one by one off the tackle. They've given up a lot of yards in the slot because their linebackers scatter and they forget about the middle of the field. So, Sam, what is your bold for this Vikings-Titans game?
I want to get into these bold predictions, but I first need to get from Julia, what was the date of the Christmas tree going up behind you? I feel like we need to talk about this because this is a bit controversial issue.
I needed to. I had to.
My neighbors have their tree up, and the Detroit Lions in the city of Detroit is doing their tree lighting tonight. So, hey.
Mine was this past Saturday.
Okay, so you at least got
It's not
to
too early.
November 9th.
Here's my thing. If I'm going to put all the work in to put a Christmas tree up, it's not going up for 25 days.
Here's
so
the
you're taking
thing,
it
though.
down what? Are you taking it down Valentine's Day?
No, I take it down right after New Year's Eve when I get
Okay.
back. But I am going to have it up before I celebrate Christmas for 2 months.
Wow.
It brings me joy.
I like it.
I'm good with leaving it up on the back end for a bit. I mean, we leave ours up a week into January, maybe even 2 weeks if it's healthy because it's a real tree. I like having it in January because January is depressing. You're coming off of Christmas. There's nothing to look forward to. At least you have the tree. So I probably overdo it on the back end, and then Julia is overdoing it on the front end.
Not
I would say my neighbors have theirs right in their front window in the entryway. And last night it was dark and everybody could see their tree was up, and I could see a lot of people looking oh, I think I should put mine up. No, don't do it. My house has already requested to put their tree up this weekend too, so I'm fighting it. I don't want to do it this quick.
It's right around the corner.
Yeah, we're getting close to Thanksgiving. That's usually the point where we start to get that.
Yeah,
Get
trees
that
up for
going.
Thanksgiving. I get that.
Yeah. Bold predictions for this one. Will Levis gets sacked a lot. He fumbles a lot. The Titans do not score a lot. They've only scored more than 17 points in regulation one time this year. Will Levis, when he gets pressured, gets sacked 31% of the time. He is also bottom 3 in the league in passer rating under pressure. So I am predicting a Brian Flores blitz rate of 70% or more. He usually hovers around 50%. I think he ups that to 70 in this game, and I think he puts Will Levis and the Titans on 4 turnovers in this one. I think that it could get real ugly for Tennessee if Flores dials it up, and that their offensive line is not that great, and they're banged up at right tackle. So I think this could get ugly for Tennessee. Vikings will maybe not allow a defensive touchdown again. That was my prediction last week, and they gave up one. I'm going to go back to it, back to the well.
Okay, Reggie.
I don't know what to think after being in Jacksonville last week and seeing that game. We'll call it a game. Seeing that happen last week. But I do think that there's probably some sour taste there that they're like, you know what? We gotta do better. I'm not sure that it's going to be like a high scoring affair from the Vikings offense. I think they're going to continue to try to simplify things on offense, but the tight end game has really worked out well, especially since TJ Hawkinson got back last week. He and Oliver ate. So I am going to say that TJ Hawkinson is going to go for $120 and 2 touchdowns.
Julia.
And it's probably because of Sam's point. I could see the defense getting the ball back to the Vikings in some favorable situations, and they take advantage that way.
Julia.
My bold prediction is I think Sam Darnold's going to have a much better week this week than this past one. And I'm praying for all TV audiences that they get the same from him. I think Kevin O'Connell has a way of working with quarterbacks that we haven't seen in a while. He has a way of talking to them. The fact that he, on Wednesday during his presser, just kind of called Sam Darnold out by name was something that he doesn't – I feel like he doesn't normally say, like, so-and-so needs to do this, that, and the other, even if it is his quarterback. But he was like, Sam has to be better on his decision-making skills, and he has to do – he listed a whole list of things that Sam has to fix. And I think that this game will be very telling for Sam in terms of – because we're kind of in this weird gray space of, like, is he talented? Is he terrible? We're so confused. And I think his performance this Sunday will kind of help define who he is to this Vikings team, how he fits into this organization. And also, I think there's also the thought of, like, maybe not so dramatic as to say it's a future defining moment in his career, but it will be. These next few weeks will be defining in, like, what happens next for him in his career too. So I think a lot is on the line for Sam Darnold right now. I think he's on the hot seat. And I think if anybody has a way of coaching a quarterback up, it's Kevin O'Connell. So my bold prediction is we'll see a solid game out of him on Sunday.
And when you look at Mason Rudolph versus Will Levis, week 6, Will Levis was blitzed 10 times. He was benched, and then Mason Rudolph got to play in week 7, 8, 9. Also, maybe a little bit of injury, banged up, but he was blitzed 10 times. So I like that, Sam, that if you get after him, you can fluster him. If you get after him, you can confuse him. And on the flip side, for people that are wondering, which Sam Darnold are we going to get? That's the question, because when you look at Sam Darnold versus the Lions, he was blitzed 15 times. 15. They came after him. He had one bad throw in that game. And so can he be that guy? Even though they lost the Lions and we know what happened, come back, blah, blah. Can he be that guy? Or is he going to be the next guy that we just saw where it's like poor throw after poor throw? He had, I think, 6 poor throws last week where it's either just bad, overthrown, not on target, because passes getting broken up, stuff like that. It happens in football. But if you just blatantly throw a bad throw and it's picked off, or you blatantly hit it in the ground and skip it to a receiver and he's wide open, those go as bad throws. And so Sam Darnold, Lions, won and was blitzed 15 times. So he handled it. So again, I think that is heightened awareness. I think that's heightened coaching, over coaching, and making sure, hey, here's where we are. Here's what you need to do. At the end of the day, I think they have to figure it out. But we got to talk about Brian Flores because, I mean, we've had this question come up years ago, or not years ago, last year, to Brian Flores. And, hey, do you want to be a head coach? And Brian Flores, and this is more of me seeing him we were out at track with our kids, and our kids run track in the same program. And so we were just out there chatting it up. And, I love to ask coaches that, because you just never know. I've asked Mike Pettin this question. Mike Pettin, I'm like, hey, do you ever want to be a defensive coordinator again? Do you ever want to, get back up into the higher ranks? He's like, yeah, I want to be a coordinator. Yeah, for sure. And so I could easily see Brian Flores either getting a head coaching job and bringing Pettin with him, or Pettin taking over for Brian Flores when he leaves. But I think both of those guys are in line to upgrade where they're at right now, if not more money, for sure, a bigger position. But we got to talk about Brian Flores, what he said, and what we think could possibly happen to him. But we'll do all that after a word from our sponsors.
We are brought to you today by FanDuel Sportsbook. We'll be making our FanDuel locks in just a moment. FanDuel.com to get started. If you're a new customer, cash in with this offer right now. Make a $5 bet, win that bet, get $150 in bonus bets that you can put on whatever you want. And that $5 bet, folks, it can be a really nice money line, something minus 300, minus 400. Make sure you win that $5 bet. Take a heavy favorite, win the bet, get the 150. And then you've got college football, college basketball, NBA, NHL, NFL, all to wager on. And there are countless wagering options for every league. It's every line, whether it's live, before the game. You got a whole docket of future selections that you can sift through. When you have that hunch, you can definitely take advantage of that at FanDuel. Bet 5, get 150, America's #1 sportsbook, for a reason. Make every moment more. They're an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Vikings minus 5.5 on Sunday. That looks mighty nice.
Well, we got to talk about Brian Flores. So with no further ado, take it away.
All right. This is a conversation that we have had many, many times in the Care 11 Sports office, especially this season and how this season started for the Vikings. And we've had several people from the news department come back and ask us, do you guys think Brian Flores is going to be around? Is he going to be a head coach somewhere, this, that, and the other? The Vikings are going to have to pay him, whatever. There's a lot of different ways that this could go. Was it on Adam Schefter's podcast that he mentioned this, wanting to be a head coach again? I think that's where he said it.
Let's go with it.
Sure. I think it was Adam Schefter's podcast. Anyways, here's where things get a little bit different than just any other coordinator that is doing a bang-up job in the NFL. Brian Flores is capable, and also the NFL is leaning more towards having defensive-minded head coaches. You have like D'Amico Ryans, you have Mike McDonald, you have all these guys that, you're kind of getting, it's becoming more of a trend in the league, more than it has been in the past. The only issue that, I wouldn't say it's the only issue, but one of the main issues that Brian Flores will run into, I feel like, when it comes to trying to get one of those coveted head coaching jobs, is because of the lawsuits that he filed for racial discrimination with the Dolphins, Broncos, Giants, and Texans 2 years ago. And the thing is, the question, this is what Reggie and I have talked about before, is just like, what do owners think? Like what's going on in an owner's mind in terms of hiring somebody who's in lawsuits like this? I think Brian Flores is very capable of being a head coach, and a good head coach. It just will come down to, obviously, those have not been settled. I think that there's arbitration going on. I don't know how all the court stuff works, and I think that there's some open court things that have to happen. I think that would be a big hesitation for owners, is like, I obviously don't know how their minds work in terms of those things, but they could be hesitant to work with him. That being said, there are obviously coaching opportunities already open. You have the Saints, you have the Jets. Not sure I can see Brian Flores and Aaron Rodgers working well together. Could see him potentially working well in New Orleans. But I think that the main thing that once this potentially becomes a bigger conversation is like owners taking a chance on him, considering the lawsuits that he's filed in the past. Not saying that that's like wrong of him to do, but it's just something that is on his resume at this point.
Julia, you think he's back next year?
I think it's too early to say. I think it's too early to say the season. I think if the defense can stay consistent and close out games the way that they have been, I think that he has a much better shot at getting a head coaching job. But we have to see, because I mean, you think about last year too. The defense didn't finish out the season very well, so we have to see how they finish out the season before I think we can really make a judgment call on that.
Yeah, I think that the deck is stacked against Brian Flores in this case. If you look around the league, how many of the 32 head coaches are defensive-minded? A third at most, or a sixth? I don't know if it's probably in the 5 to 10 range. I'd have to count them up. So of the however many openings there are, let's say there's 6. Usually there's about 6 openings. Of those 6, how many teams are even willing, even entertaining the notion of hiring a defensive-minded head coach? Maybe 1 or 2. So of those 1 or 2 openings, you need to find a team willing to take a shot on Flores, who's got these albatrosses around his neck with not only the lawsuits, but the Tua story, I think, kind of set things back again for him. I thought he was maybe coming out of the weeds, and then the Tua story dropped with reports of how he treated Tua in Miami. And I bet Brian Flores has a lot of regrets about a lot of things that went down in Miami. And then there's the whole thing with, because of how badly it went with Miami, with a bad relationship with the owner, a team that didn't want to be competitive, and there were differing opinions of between Flores and ownership of whether they were going to win or not. He's going to want to have a good fit. He's going to want to have a competitive team, not a team like the Saints that arguably is going to have to tear things down to the studs and start over. I think he's going to want to go into a place where he is permitted to win and has a roster, arguably, to win right away. So it's kind of threading the eye of a needle. I think he might be more selective as well. He may not just take anything thrown his way. He may want the perfect situation. So I think that it's more likely than not he's back with the Vikings next year. But again, it only takes one team to take a shot on him. And that defense has turned enough heads in the league that some group might say, we want your defensive mind behind our team. But I still think he's more than likely back with the Vikings. Reggie, what do you think?
Yeah, I think he's back. And I think it's the Vikings game, but I think it's tough. When Colin Kaepernick did what he did, that was basically it for him. Trying to, play in the NFL, even though he was like, look, I'm ready. He was doing some tryouts, but nothing ever really materialized. I think it's great that Flores is still getting a chance to coach in the league, even after, bringing the lawsuit up. But I think it's going to be a tough sell to get an owner to go down that path, which I think is unfortunate, because I do think that he is deserving of another head coaching opportunity. All the retreads that we see around the league, guys getting jobs again and again. You look at Dan Quinn and Washington, what he's doing with that Commanders team, looking good. I know they lost last night, but they got a young quarterback, and the future is bright there. And I think if given Flores an opportunity like that to do the same, I think he would flourish. But I think that's just a tough sell. These owners are petty, man. Like, I always go back to St. Louis. Like, when the owners want to do something, when the owners are bullish on something, that's how they are. They wielded their way out of St. Louis with all these different technicalities and, getting Jerry Jones behind it and all that, to move out of St. Louis and move to LA, because that was what the owners wanted to do. If the owners don't want to, and not saying they're colluding, because I know that's a huge topic, especially with the Kaepernick thing, that they were colluding against bringing Kaepernick back into the NFL. But if the owners are not sold on Flores after, what he did, there's probably some owners that are like, hey, look, he is still coaching. That's good enough, but I don't have to hire him as a head coach. I think he's deserving, but I just think that it's tough. The Tua thing, he talked about how he's learned from that and he took full responsibility from that. And he's gotten a lot of support from his guys on the Vikings defense that vouch for him as a person and his character and as a coach. And we see that he is really talented. Those first 5 weeks, he had the NFL in a blender. And so I think when guys are talented like that, they do deserve opportunities to elevate. I know it's like an offensive league, but you hire the right offensive coach to mold the offense into like this generation, if you will, kind of like what the Lions have done, kind of like what DeMeco Ryans did in Houston and getting that offense cooking. The defensive minded coaches can still work, DQ hiring Cliff Kingsbury in Washington, that looks like a good thing for Daniels. So I think it could work. I just don't know if there's going to be an owner willing to make that happen. You look at some of the teams that are going to be looking for head coaches next year. Don't see him going to the Jets. I wouldn't even want him to go to the Jets. That's just a disaster for him. I don't know. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. But I hope for his sake that he can get a job, but I just don't know that it happens this offseason.
Yeah, and so when you look at, Sam, you brought it up. So the divisions right now in the NFL, there's 8 divisions. 6 of the 8 NFL divisions are led by defensive-minded head coaches. So I think there is a trend. Now, although the 11 of the teams are defensive-led, and then one is special teams and Joe Judge. When you wait, Joe Judge, he's
that's an old
that's
info there.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I say.
That's
Judge
Giants. Giants pre-Dable.
Oh, they have them out. They don't have them on here, but this is February 2024. So this is as of February 2024. 11 of the NFL, because they didn't have a 32. Okay, yeah, they were missing a coach. So 11 of the 31 head coaches are defensive-minded coaches. So there's a different. Yeah, they have Dable in this one. So sorry, so I had to scroll up. So 11 of the coaches are defensive-minded. But 61% of the head coaches hired since February 2020 have been considered offensively inclined. So when you look at the teams doing that since 2020, where are their teams at? Again, when you look at who's leading these divisions, who's taking their teams to the playoffs, it's defensive-minded head coaches. So I think it is going to kind of, some of these teams are thinking that. Now, the problem is, though, the coach they fired, like Robert Saleh with the Jets, if they fired a defensive head coach, they are more likely to hire an offensive coach. And so you have to look at who was fired, because if they fired one, they're not going to want to stick with that. They're going to try to go a different direction, not because there's anything to it. It's because they just think that's what they should do. And so when you check out some of these articles, some of the analytics behind how they hire, who they hire, who's going to get hired, Mike Tomlin, Pete Carroll, Dennis Allen was fired, right? Wasn't he fired with the Saints?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So Dennis Allen, defense. Robert Saleh, defense. Todd Bowles is still there. Brian DeBole should be fired. DeMeco Ryans, Jonathan Gannon. So when you think about Dennis Allen and Robert Saleh being fired, are they going to go defense again? Probably not. Like, that's going to be tough for them. And so I could see, like, the Lions offensive coordinator, everybody's going to want him. Ben Johnson has been doing his thing. Like, they are going to want a Dan Campbell spinoff that has offensive, like, blood to say, hey, come in here, give us the Dan Campbell, but then make our offense really, really good. And so I could see that with the Jets, because I could see Ben Johnson, maybe Aaron Rodgers stays and Aaron Rodgers wants a Ben Johnson. I don't think Derek Carr has a say-so with the Saints, so who cares? But I could easily see Ben Johnson going to the Jets, because that seems like a likely place. Maybe they draft Shedeur Sanders with a Ben Johnson. I mean, that's a big market, New York, Dion. Like, I could see it happening. But for Brian Flores, I see him back with Minnesota. I unfortunately, I do. I think it's going to take maybe another year or two for them to get the blood stain off of his resume. for him to maybe come to an agreement with these NFL owners and with the NFL and say, look, here's what happened. I don't blame any of you. Let's do this at least so this doesn't happen again. And that's the thing, man. For some people, sometimes you have to go through the pain for others to not have to go through it. And I think that's what Brian Flores is trying to do. He's trying to get this weeded out so that nobody else has to go through what he went through and how he was treated as a coach and what he was asked of to do as a coach, because no other owner would do that. That's why the other owners haven't come. If you think about it, no owner has come to support of the dog. Like, nobody stepped up and said, yeah, no, this is dumb. No, Brian Flores, you have no basis. They're literally all like, all right, we're not talking about this because clearly that dude is sketchy over there. You saw the Cardinals, same thing. When their GM got railroaded, he then started releasing text messages talking about burner phones, and our owner was contacting our head coach when he shouldn't have been, and blah, blah. Like, nobody came to bat for those owners with the Cardinals. Everybody's like, all right, yep, it happened. We're not gonna be involved. So I think Brian Flores has a case. The problem is there's a little bit of quiet solidarity. Your quietness sometimes is your answer. Their quietness is showing they don't want to go against the owners, but they also aren't supporting Brian Flores. So it's kind of like, let's let them figure it out. So I think Brian Flores probably is with the Minnesota Vikings for another year, which is good for the Minnesota Vikings. As we look at the next topic, so when you think about your bets, people, everybody wants to win money. Everybody has to get their money on the line. Everybody has to figure out, where should it go? Reggie Wilson. Tell the people, hopefully, so you don't lose their support of you, because they already trusted me and Sam. They trusted me and Sam. We've been kind of on, but Reggie, take us away with these locks.
I don't know. I'm almost scared, man, to do this. After last week, I bombed, man. That shell coverage is tough. I do wonder, and Justin Jefferson talked about it yesterday, finding ways to beat the shell coverage, because that seemed to be like a blueprint. That being said, they still rolled up 400 plus yards of offense against the Jags. They just didn't finish those drives. But we didn't see the explosive plays that we are used to seeing from this Vikings offense, and they didn't get into the end zone once. So that being said, I did have a bold prediction of TJ Hockenson scoring multiple touchdowns. So I guess that's my lock. TJ Hockenson to score 2+ touchdowns, plus 3,300.
Oh, my goodness. For those that want to know, the Titans defense has only given up 2 touchdowns in 2 games, receiving wise. And that is the Colts had 2 touchdowns.
Bro, they're 2-7.
And the Lions had 2 touchdowns. They're 2-7 because of dumb stuff. Like, the Bears did not score a touchdown on them.
The Jags were 2-7 as well, and look at what the Vikings did.
Exactly.
Yeah, so this is the funny stat.
I'm just giving the people a little back, just in case they're like, wait, 2 touchdowns, TJ. People, it's only happened twice this year.
Don't be sowing seeds of doubt in the people on me, okay? I'm already down bad,
I just want the people to like
opinion.
No, okay? Like, hey, Reggie told us to do this, but Ryan gave us.
I didn't tell you to do it.
No one's gonna believe Reggie when he does the news report at night. They're gonna say, was that really the final score? I don't know.
As long as it's not bets, I think people are okay with Reggie. Like, don't tell us how to bet. Just tell us the news. Give us the sports. Give us your analystness. But don't your analysis. Give us your analysis, but do not tell us where to bet. Just saying, only 2 games. But that's a bold. That's also a bold. So you also gave him a lock and a bold prediction there too, Reggie. Because if he were to score 2 touchdowns, they've not given up 2 touchdowns to one player this season, and they have not given up 2 touchdowns in a game except for twice. So,
but Ron, so to your earlier point about blitzing, and then to Julia's point, when we were talking with Kevin O'Connell this week, I think he tries to simplify some things. He's already simplified some things for Sam Darnold, but I think the problem with Sam Darnold is when he gets too much time, he gets impatient and doesn't necessarily go through his reads fully, and he kind of forces things. The funny stat is he's actually better passing when he is blitzed than when he is not, to your point, Ron. So I think if he's just hurried up and has to, make a split decision, he actually makes better decisions with the football. So I can see, him just getting the ball out. And like I said earlier, if the defense is balling out and giving the offense the ball in favorable positions in the red zone, I think he can capitalize on that with TJ Hawkinson with 2 touchdowns. So look,
they've given up.
You don't have to do it.
They've given up 2 total touchdowns this season.
All right, Ryan.
To tight ends. 2.
All right.
2 touchdowns to tight ends. Hunter
It's the
Henry
first time for everything.
and Sam Laporta. Oh no, sorry, Sam Laporta and I forgot the other tight end. I think it's the other Lions tight end. I think 2 tight ends in the Lions game both scored touchdowns. It's the other guy. He has the weird name, not weird name, but it was a name I had to look up. I was like, what position does he play? So another tight end for the Lions. So 2 tight ends were to the Lions. I will say that. So there's a chance 2 could go to TJ Hawkinson. So it wasn't the same guy. It was 2 different tight ends. Also, Amon-Ra St. Brown, they gave up 4 touchdowns. So Amon-Ra St. Brown was all 1 to 4 different guys. And so, yeah, if there's any game, the Lions are able to do it. And Jared Goff, maybe Sam Darnold can do it with TJ Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson and also throw 4 touchdowns. But running backs have scored 5 receiving touchdowns. So they do, like I said, the linebackers and the way they drop back for some reason, something's a little off. They stare at grass. Like one of the plays I'm breaking down Sunday, one of the linebackers drop backs and he's looking at the sideline as if there's going to be another receiver over there, and there's nobody there. It looks like he's an NPC or something, and Reggie left. Right? Reggie was NPC'd, clearly. We were not supposed to bring up the NPC and AI. I'm sorry. Reggie has been taken away. But Julia, give us your FanDuel locks.
This is where FanDuel is completely agreeing with Sam about his take on Will Levis touching grass on Sunday. They have Minnesota Vikings to record 5 or more sacks versus the Titans. Minus 130. So they're expecting Will Levis to get sacked 5 times.
They're saying it's more likely than not he gets sacked 5 or more times. That's crazy.
Minnesota Vikings to record 6 or more sacks plus 165. So I would say go with obviously the one that's going to get you money. But if you want to put up just like a little something down, Minnesota Vikings to record 6 or more sacks. And we could see like 4 of those in the last minute and a half of the game. Who knows the way that this defense has been playing? Jonathan Bernard had 2 sacks in like 20 seconds 2 weeks ago. So yeah, I'm gonna go with that one. Minnesota to record 6 or more sacks plus 165. I think Will Levis is gonna he's gonna be in hell on Sunday.
Sam,
I did want to add on the blitz note that Sam Darnold in the PFF era, so they've recorded this about 18 years back, he has the best passer rating when blitzed of any quarterback in that era. It's almost perfect. 146.7 passer rating when blitzed. Insanely good. I think the Vikings offense has been performing like an elite offense the last 2 weeks, and they've been scoring like a bottom 5 offense because they just keep throwing interceptions. So imagine if the performance starts translating to points scored. That's why I am looking at the Vikings alternate point total. I'm taking $10 and I'm just putting it on over 27.5, over 28.5, over 29.5, over 30.5, over 31.5. I'm just going to put it on that range. And if the Vikings can score 31, then almost all of those bets will cash. Because I think that there's an opportunity for the Vikings to actually turn all of their first downs, all of their yardage into points this week. So I'm trying to get rich with some alternate point totals.
So I'm going to go with 2+ touchdown scorer, and I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson.
Ooh.
Here's why. You look at the Lions, they had 4 touchdowns to 4 different people. Easily could have been one guy to get 2 or 3. When you watch the tape, there's 4 plays, but 3 of the 4 plays I'm breaking down, there are multiple receivers open. There are multiple tight ends open down the seam and in the flats, and in the corner routes that could score. The fact that who they were playing, and so the one is the Buffalo Bills was one, and there's one with the Buffalo Bills where he could have easily thrown the go route to Amari Cooper, but he threw the corner route to 86. What's his name? Dalton. Forgot his last name. Forgetting his last name already. But number 86 for the
Kincaid.
Kincaid. Yep. Throwing corner routes to him. And then the Colts, it was Flacco. And same exact thing. There was a chance for him to throw a go route, and he decides to throw the over. Nothing wrong with either option, but if you decide to take the go route, if there's any team that's going to take the go route, and this is why I say they play quarters. So if you motion or you move, they play quarters to one side where they give it away. The DB backs up, the safety backs up, and the other corner comes up to press. They play quarters to one side and 2 to the other, which for those wondering, I don't know how coaches came up with this, but that's cover 6, because I guess 2 + 4 is 6. So when they go cover 6, they leave the 2-man guy actually manned up. It's so weird. It's not actually 2 because the safety never gets off the hash. Like he kind of sits on the hash, which is like cardinal rule number 1, never sit on the hash. Like there's nothing on the hash. That's why Aaron Rodgers got mad at Mike Williams for not running the red line, because you never run to the hash. You run the red line. So if I know routes are not built to run down the hashes, we're either in the middle or we're in the red line. Why would you sit on the hash? But 4 to 5 times on third down, the Titans do that. And so I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson, because if anybody's going to take that go route and say, hey, if I see him come up and roll up and press and you got man, hey, like he just gives him that look like I'm not moving, you don't move, I got you. He's throwing the go route to Justin Jefferson, and we know what happens. Justin Jefferson one-on-one, it's usually a touchdown. And there's some banged up Titans DBs, so I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson for 2. If Reggie's hit, it could hit 2. It could be TJ Hockenson 2, Justin Jefferson 2, and it looks like the Lions game 52 points. Here's some quick stats for you before we get into the last topic, which is the Wolves, just so you guys can see where everybody's going with this. In the first quarter, the Vikings have the second best offense and the second best defense in the first quarter. First downs, punts. They punted the least amount of time in the first quarter. The Titans actually are good. They have they're third. 29% of the time they convert first downs. But you know what? In the second half, they are the worst. 18%. 32nd in the NFL. So the Titans are the worst. The Vikings do fall off. They're 19th. But you know who's 18th? Can anybody guess who's 18th in the second half of games for converting first downs? They're in our division.
Lions.
Yep. And the Lions are good. So if we're saying the Lions are good, the Lions have a similar fall off in the second half. They're 18th. So as bad as it feels to us, they're 7-2, and they're right with the Lions in all their stats. So all they have to do is maybe play a little bit better here and there, and they win these games, and they're going to end up last game of the season versus the Lions could be for the division, which is what the NFL wants. And we're probably going to have to deal with like a primetime game or something, which we don't want at the end of the season. But anyway, that's some quick stats for you guys to understand that. Second half defense as well. The Vikings 19 sacks, and I think Sam brought this up. The Titans only have 7. So they do not come after the quarterback. I don't know why. They kind of, like I said, they show 7 and they rush 4. That's their motto. And I think they love to have 7 in coverage to say, look, you're not going to beat us deep. And they do. They've stopped a lot of passes. They don't rush, but they also don't get beat. And that's why they have the number 1 passing defense in the NFL. But I want to let everybody know, Sunday, make sure you check out the postcast with Luke Inman, Luke Braun, Sam Ekstrom, and myself as we break down this Vikings-Titans game. Will Levis eat mayonnaise with a banana in his coffee? We don't know. Will Gia show up and say, take me back? Will the Vikings walk out of Tennessee with a win? Because we know that Nashville is a place for dreams and playing music. And the Vikings are going to play the violin as the Titans play their tiny violin, and they cry on the way out the door. But make sure you guys check out the postcast as we do that, and we'll be back after a quick pause. My panic meter went up when I saw that cat come across the screen because I didn't know what was going on. I was like, is Julia getting devoured and killed by an animal? I didn't know what was going on.
He's just curious about everything.
I had no idea what was going on. It's like one of those scary movies where everybody's sitting there and all of a sudden Julia disappears and everybody's like, oh my God, what was that? Don't say Candyman 3 times. Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice.
Oh my God.
Now it's time for the Wolves panic meter. Sam, get us going before we get out of here. We got about 4 to 5 minutes.
Where do you start? Wolves have fallen to a Jimmy Butler-less Heat team and the Blazers twice in a row. And not only falling to the Blazers, I mean, yes, clunkers happen, but to have 2 consecutive clunkers against a team that's not serious and was missing people. The Blazers were not healthy, and they lost to them fairly convincingly twice in a row with undisciplined basketball on the offensive end, getting blown by on the defensive end. I don't know how many times Shaedon Sharpe drove straight at them and got to the rim and finished a layup. The Timberwolves aren't doing any of that right now. The Blazers tried really hard, and guess what? They won 2 games in a row. The Timberwolves' effort is so questionable right now, and their I don't know what's worse, the effort or the execution. They are in tandem, just pitiful. So the Wolves need a players-only meeting. They need something to shake. They need to shake things up in some fashion. I don't know if that's a Dillingham move, although he came into the game and immediately made a boneheaded error on Wednesday and threw the ball to the other team. But Chris Finch needs to rattle some cages. The Timberwolves' schedule is now going to get a little more difficult. This was the forgiving part, and now they've got some tough games, including the Kings tonight. So this is what we all feared, right? We all feared that there'd be a big regression for this team, especially after the trade. Julius Randle has cratered the last week or so. So it's rough right now, man. It's tough to be a Wolves fan. We may have to pivot to the Wild because it is a frustrating basketball team to watch.
Yeah, Reggie.
I don't really have much to add there. I think Finch was talking about their play after the game, and he thought that they played better than the night before, but still didn't result in a win. You're talking about a 3-game losing streak. Hadn't happened since the Western Conference Finals. So, and that didn't happen all of last season. So they're at a little bit of a crossroads right now. And Cat scored 46 the other night. It was a losing effort against the Sixers, but there are now fans who are having a remorse about that trade happening, and I can't say I blame them right now. It's still early.
Yeah, there's some moments when I feel like they definitely miss Cat. I just don't think that there's like this unity among the team that we saw last year. They also just don't have something that they can really like hang their hat on. Last year at this point, we were talking about how crazy their defense was. This year, there's not like something that we're like, wow, I also think 3 of the first 12 games have been against winning teams with a winning record. And so, yeah, I think maybe it's starting to be time to panic. Something has to change. Something's not working. It's definitely not the same team that we saw last year, at least as of right now.
Mm-hmm. And when I look at the Timberwolves, I go back to this. Like I was happy to see Julius Randle come. I was okay with seeing Cat go. They have to find a Batman and a Robin situation. We know who Batman is. They need a consistent. Like, I don't care if it's Naz Reid. I don't care if it's Jaden McDaniels. Like, we've seen other guys in the league years and year in and year out come out of nowhere and become a number 2 guy for a team, and then either one, stay with that team and continue to do great or move on. Draymond Green, nobody expected him to be a third wheel in the Splash Brothers, but he became a good piece. I think that's what the Timberwolves need. They need a solid piece. But as far as losing the Trailblazers, you got to look at yourself. You got to look in the mirror and say, what the heck are we doing? Because this team is not good. Did they lose all 3 to the Trailblazers, or just
they crushed them at home last week
and they lost twice
when
to
it
them?
Felt like they were playing well, and then they lost twice there.
That's what I thought. Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, when you think about that, it's a poor start to the week. When we come back on the basketball party on Wednesday, we'll see how they did, and who knows, they might not win a game. I hope that's not the case though. But I'm Ron Johnson. That's Sam Ekstrom. That's Reggie Wilson. That's Julia Daniels. This has been Locked On Sports Minnesota's Friday Roundtable. People, the Vikings, Titans. We'll see if our locks hit. You guys let us know in the comments what you think and what you think is going to happen. Vikings, FanDuel locks. You can hashtag it and then tell us what you guys are going to be putting your money on. Have a great weekend.